Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Harne Podcast. My guest for today is Ajaysan, and he is someone who has switched his domain of career from technology to finance after coming to Canada. On this episode, Ajaysan shares the process of how he made that switch in his career from IT to venture capital, a field in which he has been working from the past 1 year. This episode will be especially beneficial for those listeners who want to make that same switch. As usual, before I begin, I would like to take a moment to request you to subscribe to this channel, press that like button, and leave us a feedback in the comment section down below. Now sit back and enjoy the episode with Ajay san. Hi, everyone. Hi, Ajay. Thank you so much for joining us today and taking the time to record this podcast. How are you doing?
Yeah, thank you, Raghav. And hi, everyone. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good as well. Thank you. So, Ajay, I know you have a background in IT like most Indian engineers, and then you decided to do your MBA like most engineers in India, but you decided to do it at Schulich. And from there, you switched your careers. You went from IT to into finance. So, tell us a little about yourself and how did you make that transition? So, all yours now.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So I started out as an engineer. I did my engineering from Chennai, and after that, I worked for an IT company called Cognizant. I've been with Cognizant for 4 years. During the time in which I decided to do the switch from an IT to finance, so I thought the best way to do that is by doing an MBA.
Mhm.
So I did my MBA from Schulich School of Business, and I did my specializations in finance. And after doing that, I graduated and I worked for a venture capitalist firm here in Toronto.
Mhm.
And here we are uh, in a VC. Started out with in Cognizant and ending up in a VC.
But let me take you a little back in time when you did your engineering. I think you did your engineering in electronics.
That's
Was it
correct.
EC or was it triple
It's
E?
electrical and electronics.
Electrical and electronics. After that, you joined IT. So, were you a developer? Were you a QA? What was your role like in Cognizant?
Okay. So I joined Cognizant as a developer,
Mhm.
and I basically worked for two projects during the time I was in Cognizant. One
Mhm.
was for a very huge manufacturing, sorry, electric, sorry, automobile manufacturing company.
All
Another
right.
one was in I would say like a finance related company.
All right.
I cannot disclose the reasons because of the
Uh,
NDAs and other stuff. So
we
these are the two
understand.
clients that I worked for,
Uh-huh.
and in both the clients, I was a developer. I
Mhm.
was basically creating interactive reports for my clients, like a business intelligence kind of a setup where I uh, propagate results for my clients so that they can take a look at that and they can make business decisions on top of that.
Okay.
And yeah.
So, with that background, how many years did you work before you started to think about doing an MBA?
Okay. So that was 4 years, 2 years for each client. And
Okay.
it was during the second client, I realized that finance has got a special ring to it. And I thought maybe I should pursue finance from there. Maybe that is my calling. And I thought the best way to approach that particular opportunity is to look out for to do an MBA.
Okay. And like, were you clear that finance was your calling? Because most of the people, at least I know that was for true for me, finance people make a lot of money.
That's right.
So people chase money. And even that was my idea when I joined Schulich. I thought, okay, I'll specialize in finance because it has a lot of money. I had heard some job designations like investment bankers or equity research analysts, and these people make a lot of money. So let's go and do that. Was that your idea, or were you really clear on as to what value you will add and what is it that you want to do? Were you clear on your role, or what was your decision based on?
Oh yeah, it's that's a good question. It's a mix of both. So I'm someone who would like to do something take something that a task that is very difficult and
Okay.
try to wrap my head around it and finally find a way around it. So that's the one of the reasons why I took electrical and electronics engineering in the first place, because it's really hard when you look at in terms of other courses with respect to engineering. Not that other courses are not as hard as electrical and electronics, but then it is one of the
Correct.
hardest subjects. So
Yes.
when I thought about finance, I thought it is really a hard because when I was working for the client actually took time to explain to me what finance is all about, what he's doing, and I was blown away by the various information that he was sharing it with me. I thought
All
this
right.
is quite interesting and this is really hard. So I thought
Okay.
I would this can be my next transition in life.
All
So
right.
then I took MBA, but
Mhm.
uh, I would admit that I was influenced after I took my MBA because I had a great professor called Ashwin Joshi from Schulich School of Business.
Okay.
He's a marketing professor.
Uh-huh.
I was like, I got blown away from his first class thinking that maybe finance is not my type. Maybe I should do marketing.
Okay.
And also that I had a couple of interactions with other people, and they were like who are well versed in finance, and they were saying that you should do something called CFA,
Okay.
and that is a good way to that's a good segue into finance. I
All
thought
right.
I've been reading all along through my life. Do I have to do more reading again? And that was and no, maybe I didn't think so much about finance. I just thought that it's the best thing for me, but I didn't think about doing a CFA back then.
Okay.
Then I thought, okay, then marketing is the way forward.
All right.
And that's when a miracle happened, when I got to meet my accounting professor. And that's where I thought, okay, I think finance is the way forward. And of
Oh,
course, we can discuss about that in elaborate if you have the time. But that's my tipping point. I would say that
yeah.
I should take finance and not marketing.
Sure. Time is all we have. And so, like, I mean, we again went ahead. So that was before you entered Schulich. And like after you entered Schulich, you got influenced by the professors over there. And before you made that final decision of going into finance. But if you were so interested in finance, why did you not pursue, say, a master's in finance, MFin? Why just MBA? And why that too? Why MBA from Schulich or in Canada? Why not do it in India?
Okay. So first I'll address the second question, that is like why Schulich or MBA in Canada rather than
Mhm.
in India.
Correct.
So my aim was to do an MBA from a very reputed institution that has been my only goal from for a very long time.
All right.
And that being said, the reputed institutions are IIMs in India.
Mhm, mhm.
The biggest disadvantage to that is you get to write one exam 1 year, and if you do not clear the exam, then you have to wait another year. And I was not
Yes.
keen on spending an other year working for an IT firm.
Okay.
So I have to take another measure. I have to use another strategy to do that, and that's when we have GMAT and GRE to come to your aid. And
Correct.
universities in US, or for the matter any universities across I mean not inside India but outside of India, we have
Mhm,
all the universities which accept GRE and GMAT scores
mhm.
across the year, and you have
Yeah.
multiple entries as well. So why USA and Canada for that matter? Because it has always been like US, because finance, the global markets are the center of finance, like revolves around USA for that matter.
Mhm.
It's the global it's the center point for finance, and Canada is something that is a mirror image of USA.
Okay.
So my idea was to go into USA because I have
Mhm.
applied for lots of schools in USA, but unfortunately I was not able to get into any of these MBA schools.
Mhm.
So and then my second option was Canada, and my third
Okay.
option was Singapore, and my fourth option was Australia. But so yeah, it is by process of elimination. USA didn't accept me, but Canada was more than welcome to. I mean, to accept me. So I took Canada, and it was Schulich that I got into. So I took Schulich.
All right. Yeah. Any tips as to why you think you did not get into the other business schools you applied to? if you were given another chance to apply, what is it that you would have changed in your application or your approach, which you think would have made you successful at those business schools?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question.
Mhm.
So first thing, why I didn't get into those schools in retrospect, what
Mhm.
I can think of is that maybe I was in I was in meeting their standards of providing admissions to people. Like I wasn't cut out for the MBA during that time, maybe
Okay.
2 years down the line.
Mhm.
But now, given a chance that what I can do differently is that I could write a very good statement of purpose. I
Okay.
know how to project myself. I wouldn't say sell myself for, but then I know how to project myself now.
Uh-huh.
And I think those are the two strengths that I have gained over the past 2 years. And also working for a venture capitalist firm, you listen to a lot of pitches and you know how
Yes.
to project yourself in front of
Mhm.
people, and also to listen to them. And these are the strengths that I have gained in the past 2 years, which I think that if I now apply for the top schools in USA, I think that I could get in.
All right. Yeah, that's insightful. Thank you. So you're saying it had nothing to do with your score, but with how you projected yourself and how you presented yourself in the application which you made. So yeah, that I think that is really important because a lot of people have good GMAT or GRE scores. It's just how you present yourself to the business schools that makes all the difference between selected candidate and one who was not so lucky. So yeah,
I
that's quite
completely agree.
insightful. So all right. So can you, Ajay, please elaborate on that? When you say that you know how to sell yourself better or how to project yourself better, can you elaborate a little on that, please? What is it exactly that you would do so that you are able to project yourself better to these universities?
Okay. All right. When someone is applying for MBA for that matter,
Mhm.
first things first is that you need to first figure out what you actually want from this course,
Mhm.
which I didn't do when I was applying. I was like all over the place, like
Yeah.
uh, writing according to the questions. But you should actually think about, let's take for example, some universities have these questions that they want you to answer, and it's like
Correct.
really question that you have to think a lot about it. What I would suggest is that take some time off, uh, be by yourself, think about the question, and then think about the thoughts that you get in your mind, write
Can
them
you
out.
can you give us a small example?
Okay, I definitely can. So I was applying for, I think, University of California,
Okay.
Marshall School of Business,
Mhm.
and they had this question like, if you had, let's say, I think, $1 million,
Mhm.
um, which business would you invest?
Okay.
So
Mhm.
this was a question.
All right.
So I was thinking, I was first thinking, okay, what is the best way to answer this question? So I would take something that I know from my work. Let's say I wanted to start an IT firm for that matter, because I
Okay.
have been working in IT, but
Yes.
then I do not know anything about IT to start off in the first place. So I'm not going to do that. Second thing is that that's when I need to actually I have to mention that I'm also a close-up magician.
Okay.
So it's a it was a surprise for even for Raghav. And so I was thinking maybe I should write something about magic, because I know more about magic than I know more about IT.
Okay.
And starting a business is not just about starting something that is fancy out there, but to actually do your due diligence, to
Yes.
map out all the scenarios that that you possibly can before you
Correct.
start a business, as much as you can. Of course, I know it's a very I mean, it changed, the environment switches constantly and continuously, but there
Mhm.
should be some amount of order in that chaos, right? Or else it's very tough.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So we have to think about anything that is possible that you can bring order to, and then think hard on top of that, and then have a plan to execute that. So that, for that question, I actually wrote that I wanted to start a magic shop
Okay.
in Chennai.
Mhm.
Why is that? Because in Chennai you have two magic shops, and
Okay.
most of the people do not know where these two magic shops are.
Correct.
It's a very closed network. But
Mhm.
to me, the concept of magic is not just about having a shop, but to have a shop, not a shop, but it's a place where people from different backgrounds can come and perform magic. So it's not just
Okay.
a shop, it's a place
Uh-huh.
to perform, and
So
shop is a small portion of it. So And that was my that was my response to that question. I told them that I wanted to open a magic shop because this are the reasons.
All right.
So I thought about it for a week or so. Then I ended up, even though it's not, I would say, like, it's not so, what's the right word to say? It's okay, I'll skip that, but I'm not getting that word. But then it's not a lucrative opportunity, maybe, but then it felt like I can really do really well by starting a magic shop. So
Okay. Mhm. Go
yeah,
ahead. Go ahead, please.
yeah. So that is what I would suggest people, like, if there's a question, or for the matter, SOP, what do you actually want with this course? Even though you do not know what you're doing, maybe it's because a decision that your parents made that you wanted to do an MBA. Doesn't
Okay.
matter.
Mhm.
You will have to be, like, very clear, because this statement of purpose that you're writing has been evaluated by people who have already seen lots of kids like us, or lots of students like you. So
Yes.
exactly, when you write, they know which is junk and which is not.
That's true.
So there is no way around that. And think about it, like, if they haven't seen you, they do not know you,
Mhm.
it's your word for them, and still you have to impress them in what, 1,500 words.
Yes. If,
It's
if
tough.
if it's not a video essay, like you, some colleges do have video essays, then they do get a chance to see you, and those questions are quite, on the go. You are not told those questions before, but I agree with you. Actually, these questions, I believe, are also their way of knowing you better, because like they asked you what kind of business would you invest in, and you wrote that you would open a magic shop because you're a magician. So that tells them one aspect of your personality which they would not know otherwise. So yeah, I think in just what you said was, you need to have that clarity of why do you want to do an MBA, or why do you want to go towards this particular path. So that answers the second part of my question. The first part was, why not do an MFin, why MBA?
Okay, that is a good question. Um, so again, the reason for that was I didn't know what is an MFin. My idea about MFin was that you need to have a bedrock knowledge, or some sort of knowledge about finance before
Okay.
you do a master of finance,
Mhm.
because it's master of finance,
Correct.
and it's very specific finance.
Mhm.
So first year, again, I was thinking whether I should do finance or MBA after, and so there were, like, uh, thoughts going back and forth, and I think that's a good thing as well. That's the best thing about MBA, that you can be uncertain as much as possible, even till the
Yes.
end. And MBA gives that room for you to think of actually what you want. So
Correct.
that's one of the reasons why I would say, like, for someone, I would highly recommend someone to do an MBA, because it opens up doors which would not open if you're doing something like MFin, or very specific things like MS, for that matter.
Yeah, because then you are in that particular niche. Whereas
Exactly.
MBA is more like a generalist degree. You have many paths open for you to go into if you do
Exactly.
an MBA. All right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you. That actually makes sense. Thank you so much for that answer. So
And
after
if I
you,
may
yeah,
add one more thing, like,
please.
so at the end of my MBA, I also gained a liking towards business. Before, when I was in finance mode, I was thinking I should maybe do a equity research push. I should take up an equity research portion.
Okay.
But at the end of my MBA, I
Mhm.
started realizing that I also like business, for that matter.
Mhm.
So maybe I should do something that is a amalgamation of business and finance, and hence that thought process led me to maybe choose venture capital, for that matter, because it's business and finance.
Yeah, but then again, that's towards the end of your MBA. So let me take you towards the beginning of your MBA. Once you got your admit, you had to make a decision of Schulich, India versus the Keele campus in Toronto. So how did you decide upon Schulich, India? Could you walk us through that decision, please?
Yeah, so definitely. The first reason for choosing Schulich, India, is that I had a long and hard conversation with the admin official at Schulich, a real
Mhm.
gentleman, and he took me over the various reasons for choosing Keele and India. And the first reason that the main reason that I chose India was from finance standpoint, because the cost of living in India is much cheaper than cost of living in Keele campus.
Correct.
And the second reason was that as I told you before, I was still contemplating whether I should stick with finance or whether I should do marketing, or for that matter, operations.
Hmm.
So I thought that the first year I'm going to think hard and long about what I want to do,
Okay.
but to take an idea about what everything else is all about, like what is operations all about and what is marketing all about, and then make a
Great.
decision
Hmm.
as fast as possible. But so even if I would have studied in if I would have taken the MBA from Canada, I
Hmm.
even would have done the MBA from Canada. The
Hmm.
first year I would have been still thinking about what I want to focus myself for the next year, the next coming year in MBA.
Hmm.
So that would have been made a much difference for me in terms of networking standpoint, because when you're in Canada, you network with actual companies which are from Canada, which is a
Yes.
negative if you are studying from India. Uh, First, because of the time difference, and second is that in my experience, people do not.
Hmm.
It's not an effective way to network from India,
Okay.
because one of the reasons is that, let's say you're networking. What is the reason for networking? Is that you want an internship, because the next year when you go to Canada, then you would want to start an internship. But usually, the companies do not respond to people who are applying from India for such internships. They want people
Yes.
to actually be in Canada so that they can
Hmm.
offer an internship to them.
Hmm.
The best thing that you can do is that you can, of course, network with all your alumni from India.
Hmm.
That is a really good strategy.
Yeah.
But I have also known people who have networked the last 1 month. They have put their heart and soul to that,
Uh-huh.
and they have gotten a job. So I thought that networking, as good as it sounds, it is not a top priority for me. So
Okay.
I didn't choose Keele campus right away. Rather, I went with India because it was a lucrative financial opportunity, and I think that's the only thing that I have, criteria that I have.
Okay, so financial, because it is cheaper to study at Schulich, India, and also you were unsure on, is it finance that you really want to go into, or could other fields be your calling as well? And you did not have that burden of networking with Canadian companies and going for an internship straight away. And that 1 year allows you that time to think. So that was the reason why you chose Schulich, India. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's
All
correct.
right. All right. So then, once you got into Schulich, uh, how did you decide upon going into finance? Like, was there anything which influenced your decision or reinforced your decision of going into finance, which you had thought earlier, or were there some fields which you found attractive and decided to maybe not finance? This looks like a good field as well. So, were there any other such fields which you were tempted to go into? How did that decision of eventually going into finance happen?
Okay, sure. That's a great question. So,
Yeah.
uh, I think I'll start with Professor Ashwin Joshi's course, which is marketing, which was
Mhm.
like the tipping point for me. Like, maybe I shouldn't do finance. I should take marketing,
Mhm.
because of the way he taught marketing. I thought like maybe marketing is my calling. Maybe I
Yeah.
can. For me, marketing is not just about selling stuff, but then actually presenting that particular product to customer for that standpoint.
Mhm.
I thought for a time that I can do really well in that, and uh, I have been thinking about that for a quite long, maybe for 2 months in MBA, that maybe I should take marketing rather than finance.
Okay.
But something like, we can call it subconscious as well. It's like telling me, maybe you're so soon to take that decision.
Okay.
You're jumping
Jumping the
without,
gun.
yeah, exactly, without
Mhm.
maybe doing some due diligence on why do you actually need marketing.
Okay.
Uh, that's fair enough. I agree with that. And then what happened? I think this was the important tipping point for me after the tipping point with Professor Ashwin Joshi. That
Mhm.
was when I joined this finance club,
Okay.
hosted by my dear friend Shehansh.
Yeah.
What happened was that we had this particular event where we have to take a company and we have to do complete analysis, starting with analyzing balance sheets, income statement, and cash flows, and
Okay.
then present the findings to the investment. I think it was the investment. If I'm correct, it was investment panel, something like that.
All right.
So I was paired with another person, my friend, who, of course, he has much better understanding of finance than I do. he,
At that
he
point
had
in
a
time.
at that point in time, because I think he also had a CFA level one degree as well.
Okay.
Uh, but we didn't. I didn't end up. I'm not sure about him, but I think he took it very seriously and he was doing it. But I didn't. I was not quite sure about. Can I pull this off? Can I analyze balance sheet, income statement, and cash flow in 2 days? That's sounds unlikely.
Hmm.
That is tough. I thought that is tough, and eventually I went. I mean, we both presented our findings, and it was a, I would say, like, it's a, what do you call it, debacle, or it was it was a it was a show that went out of rails. Like, we couldn't do much as we
Okay.
thought we could do,
Uh-huh.
and it was as much. I would say it was quite embarrassing for me, but at the same time, I had one of my friends, and you must have. I think you also interviewed him. I think he's Dinesh, and
Yeah, Dinesh Jagdish. Yeah, we had a.
yeah, he was looking at our analysis, and he was telling me like, oh, you did this analysis, this is good, and maybe you
Mhm.
can do it in this way, maybe you can do it in that way. So I was like, my god, who is this person? and he was explaining to me these stuffs, and I was like, I was quite interested. Okay, is this what we should have been doing? Maybe this is something that is quite interesting that I'm not looking at.
Mhm.
Maybe I have to equip myself first to think as interesting as this person.
Okay.
Maybe if the problem is with me, but I didn't put so much effort into understanding finance,
Correct.
and which led me to choose marketing in first place.
Okay. Hmm.
So I have two options. Like,
Hmm.
I think what as Jordan Peterson puts, you only get to pick your poisons. So I chose MBA. Sorry, I chose marketing over finance without doing a proper understanding of what finance is first,
Hmm.
and that concluding that finance is not my cup of tea.
Okay.
Rather, I neglected finance totally,
Hmm.
but I said, okay, marketing is much better than finance. I do not know for what reasons,
Hmm.
but something, it's like buying an iPhone without a cost, just like that. Because everyone is
Uh-huh.
buying iPhone, I'm going to buy an iPhone. Then
Okay.
I started thinking really hard. Okay, this actually sounds interesting, and interesting fact is that after that, I would say, sorry about the language, about that shit show that happened, but that was that is the time when I started thinking really hard, like, do I act do I have to give away finance so easily? Maybe I
Okay.
should work hard for it,
Hmm.
and then if finance doesn't agree with me, maybe we can break up and I can do marketing.
Okay. So you are saying that peer learning, which is, I think, a very important part in MBA, and we have these clubs which run at Schulich, especially at Schulich India. It was actually pretty nice. I remember we used to have a monthly newsletter in that club, which students used to post their entries and assignments like these, where we used to go and present it to a panel, different
Mhm.
activities. So you thought that without giving in your 100%, it's not wise to give up on finance. So maybe you should go and put in some more effort. Then please continue on that. Then what tipped you towards finance? You were at this stage where you said, okay, now you're going to give 100%. So
Definitely.
what happened? Which assignment did you do, or which subject was it in which you gave your 100% and then made that decision?
Yeah, definitely. And just to add to this fact, this scenario would have been completely different I would have if there would have been a finance course that happened before and
Uh-huh.
marketing came second.
Okay.
Maybe I would have been more influenced with finance, but it was marketing first. And no offense towards marketing though, but again, big shout out to Ashwin Joshi, amazing professor, still an
No, that
amazing
that
professor,
he
and
is.
still a great friend. So fortunately or unfortunately, it's unfortunate for people who have taken marketing, because the people that I've interacted with marketing, they hate finance for some reason. And think about like having an entire semester full
Mhm.
of finance courses. That kills them.
Yeah.
And that was an advantage for me, because the first course that I took, I was in this happened. So me thinking about whether I should take finance and marketing happened
Mhm.
in the first semester, end of first semester. And the
Mhm.
second semester, they were like complete subjects, like all subjects were finance related: economics, managerial finance, accounting. I think that we had one more, corporate finance. So it's
Yes.
finance, 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 and finance all day long.
Mhm.
And so the first the important subject that led me to transition to make that decision solidly that I'm going to pursue finance. I'm going to put my foot on finances. This subject called accounting,
Okay.
taught by this professor called Linda Thorne. I would
Mhm.
say she's my savior in a way. So she had this interesting assignment where we have to pre-read
Mhm.
and we have to come up with solutions for certain, I think, for certain questions.
Okay.
And we had to do it during the holidays that were assigned, like during our semester end.
Yes.
So I thought, like, what am I going to do sitting at home? Like, okay, I've been meeting my parents. I by the way, I was doing my MBA from Hyderabad and my hometown was in Chennai. I
Mhm.
traveled back to Chennai. I had like I think around 10 days of time during which I can do this assignment. So I thought,
Yeah.
like, let me put in the 10 days effort to understand what is accounting,
Mhm.
and then try to understand what is finance for the matter.
Correct.
So I started doing accounting. I started reading about accounting and other stuffs and the assignments that were done.
Mhm.
Sorry, that were given to me, and I was completely engrossed in that subject for some reason.
Mhm.
And then I was able to understand, like, okay, this makes more sense. This is for that matter what is a credit and a debit account, various
Mhm.
ledger entries and other stuffs. And I had a understanding of, oh, this is quite interesting, and I'm looking forward to this professor's lectures. I'm looking forward to meeting this professor to listen to her teach all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then what happened was there was a there was a holiday for, I think, for 3 days.
Yeah.
What happened was, friends of mine, they wanted somehow they thought, like, okay, this guy uh, knows something about accounting, maybe he can teach us accounting.
Okay.
I
So
just had 10
from
days of accounting knowledge, but then they were like, okay, maybe you can teach me those 10 days of accounting knowledge.
Mhm.
So I agreed, and I taught them in these 3 days.
So
That's when I
from not
yeah,
having any idea about accounting and finance to actually teaching people
teaching.
in just a span of 10 days.
Yeah,
So
and this
yeah,
is a
that
true story. This is
that
not fiction. So
I know I was one of those people you taught accounting to. So I know it's a true story. So
yeah,
but please continue.
yeah. So when I was teaching them, that's when I had this great realization that I have studied the course in the right way, that I was actually able to teach people. It's
Okay.
not just I was not able to just teach them, but then getting from their feedback, I understood that I was able to make them understand what is accounting.
Mhm.
So okay, so now I have learned something that is that I can actually propagate that knowledge to someone else. That is something to account
Okay.
for.
Mhm.
Maybe I'm quite interested in that. That's when I thought that, okay, I have some amount of attraction towards finance. That's my
Okay.
first calling. Like, okay, I was not just able to teach myself, but also teach someone else. So
Yes.
I have a very good understanding of what is accounting for
Mhm.
a beginner, from a beginner standpoint.
Mhm.
Then that led to exploratory things, like I started exploring about more about accounting as well, and then
Mhm.
I started venturing into finance. At what
Okay.
particular point I even thought I would do a accounting course. I will not become a finance guy. I'll just stick with accounting. I'll do a CP. But then I thought, okay, again, you're going back in going through that same rabbit hole. Maybe you have to do more
Yeah.
due diligence, and then you understand finance, and maybe you can give it up if it's not your cup of tea.
Yeah.
that's
Ajay, but
that's
let me pause you for just a moment. And for our listeners, a lot of people confuse accounting and finance. They think it's the same thing. So, can you take a step back and explain the difference? What is the difference between finance and accounting, please?
Yeah, definitely. I think this, as Ashwath Damodaran, Professor Ashwath Damodaran from NYU Stern puts it, it's the right way to put it. Like, finance starts where accounting ends. So
Correct.
what
Yeah.
I mean by that is accounting is to, this is what I understood from so far.
Mhm.
So accounting is all about taking the transactions that happen in a company, uh, segregate them into three sets of statements. It's like balance sheet, income statement, and cash flows. It's like us telling a story about what happened in the past.
Yes.
And now, okay, now you have given us a story. Now, what we have to do, we have to have some learnings from them. And how do we make that learning? Is that take those stories and try to project those stories of what is going to happen in the future. or
Okay.
what decisions can you make from those stories?
Mhm.
And that is where finance comes in.
Okay.
It's finance. That's where finance starts, where accounting ends. Accounting provides the necessary data for people in finance to make judgments about what is the future, what is the present, and maybe what was the past.
All right. So would I be right in saying that accounting captures the numbers which we see in the reports, like say cash flow statements, profit and loss statement, the balance sheet? Accounting captures the numbers, it tells the stories, but based on that stories, the financial decisions which the company has to take, that is where finance comes in. So you have to make
Definitely.
those decisions using finance, but you have to capture that story or those numbers using accounting.
That's true.
Yeah.
To give an example, to put everything, encapsulate everything together, let's say you're going to pitch an idea to an investor,
Okay.
and you have this idea of a business that is doing really good,
Mhm.
and your first slides, this you're going to put it as a PowerPoint presentation, and the first slide say this is a lucrative opportunity, question mark, how? That's where your accounting comes in. You take all the numbers that has been presented to you,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
then okay, these are the numbers, and maybe you do not understand what these numbers are, but maybe ratios will help you to understand them much better. So you
Correct.
jot down the ratios and tell them, okay, this is why it's a lucrative opportunity. Maybe you do a forecast of these numbers and show, like, this is the amount, this is the value of the company that's going to, it's going to be in the future, and that's why you need to make an investment, not just validating with respect to words, but you're also validating with respect to numbers.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. So again, at this point in time, you were confused. I mean, not confused. You caught yourself of not doing the due diligence in finance again. You said, okay, let's go into accounting, but then you caught yourself saying, no, let me explore finance. So please continue from there.
Definitely. So accounting happened, and
Mhm.
then finance was supposed to happen, but when I started out, okay, before that, I thought that, so there was this very important huge course that was coming along. It's called corporate finance, which is
Yes.
a big deal,
Mhm.
really a big deal in finance. But the idea was that I didn't have so much knowledge about finance. So it will be like going and watching Christopher Nolan movie, like for that matter, Interstellar, without knowing what theory of relativity is.
Yeah.
So you will have to know what is relativity first. So you will have to know what is finance first. So
Mhm.
I thought, what is the best standard, or what is the best way to learn finance, or is the best who teaches finance really good? And that's where I ended up with my I think my role model to this day, Mr. or Dr. Ashwin Damodaran,
Mhm.
NYU Sten professor.
Yeah.
Um, uh, like amazing guy as well, because he literally gives his lectures for free on his website.
Yes.
So anyone who is interested in finance, I would highly recommend to watch his lectures. It's very hard.
Mhm.
I agree. I didn't understand a word on the first day.
Uh-huh.
I gave up finance, hands down.
Mhm.
Second day, I again came back. I listened to the same lecture again.
Okay.
Maybe something made sense. I went back. I researched about it. Third day, I again came back, and it was like, again, I thought I'm going through a maze again, and I came the third day, fourth day, fifth day, and at least on the 10th day, something made sense.
Okay. So like they say, repetition is the mother of all learning.
Exactly. I'm going to relate to people who is watching this. Like, it's if you're like very new to finance and you take Ashwin Damodaran, it's a maze. It's very tough,
Mhm.
but be patient and keep on listening to the same lecture again and again and again. Maybe strategize on how you're going to understand his words by, okay, what I can do is I can do another reading about what he's saying separately, and then understand that, and then come back to lecture and like try to put that together. And
Okay.
that is how I started. Okay, I had an understanding of what finance is all about, little the beginners, at least the beginner level, and then corporate finance happened. And unfortunately, it was due to COVID, the lectures were cut short.
Yeah.
But thanks to the lectures that I took, like with Ashwin Damodaran, I
Mhm.
was able to understand the subject much better. I
Yes.
was able to contribute very well to the team.
All right. Yeah.
So yeah.
And after that, you decided there was no looking back. You made your decision on
e-
finance.
Exactly. So, and I'm not a, I wouldn't say I'm quite the religious person, but I actually saw an omen as when COVID happened. Like, it was a bad thing that COVID happened. Like,
Yeah,
it made our lives quite miserable. But
absolutely.
it was miserable. Like, even for us, we had to postpone our MBA by a year, for that matter. But that gave me time to think about doing CFA, which
Okay.
is a course that I would highly recommend everyone to do.
So you're saying anyone who wants to make that switch into finance should think about doing a CFA?
That is correct. It's not just about like, okay, I want to show that I know more than someone else. It's not just
Hmm.
that. It's
Hmm.
just to show to yourself that you know something in finance. And that comes from learning CFA. It's like reading a book, just like that, just to equip yourself with what is out there in finance, or to just to get a glimpse of what is the beauty of finance. Then you will have to definitely do a CFA, and hands down you will definitely love that journey. So
So,
yeah,
I mean, are you saying is it necessary to build your fundamentals in finance? Because in MBA, you have a few courses on finance, but not all of them will be focused in as much detail as they are in CFA, which I think is required when you go out looking for a job in a finance sector. So CFA equips you with that detailed knowledge, which is necessary when you face an interview at a financial company. Is that right?
that is correct. There are two advantages of doing a CFA.
Hmm.
First advantage is that finance is a very vast field, and
Correct.
CFA covers that vastness. It
Mhm.
the at least the first level of it, for people who are listening to this, CFA has three levels. The
Yeah.
first level delves deep into all the things that are finance. The level two delves deep into all these individual levels. I mean,
Mhm.
sorry, all these topics in finance. And
Correct.
level three is more about mastering these subjects in finance. So as a curriculum, it's designed to expose you to whatever is out there, the broad categories of finance, and to become a master in that. So the main advantage of doing a CFA level one is that you get to know what are the various segments that are available in finance. And interestingly, venture capital is also covered in that.
Oh, that's
Private equity
interesting.
is also covered in that.
Mhm.
And of course, these are like two different topics. Like, it is finance, but it's way it's not in in the realm of core finance, like
Mhm.
capital, like examples like capital budgeting, or for that matter, analyzing financial statements.
Mhm.
Venture capital is more towards business rather than towards finance, but still CFA covers a portion of it in the curriculum, and it's very helpful if you are looking at transitioning to venture capital, for that matter. So that is the advantage, I would say, with respect to doing a CFA, is that you get an idea about what finance is all about, and also that it exposes you to, okay, this is what finance is, and that it's a good place to start if you're serious about pursuing finance as a career.
Is that a prerequisite, you would say? Like when you go out to apply for jobs, do companies ask for CFA degree? Is that a prerequisite or you can do without it?
So my honest opinion is that you can actually do without it.
Mhm.
Thing is that if you're someone who is transitioning an from let's say from an information technology background to
Mhm.
finance, which is what I did,
Yeah.
there is no way to validate your competency in finance
Yeah.
um, without either you can validate your competency or showcase your skills by doing, again, you end up doing courses like modeling, financial modeling courses,
Mhm.
or you do a projects, or you do small projects for 8 months that is more grounded in finance, or you take
Yes.
part-time courses, part-time jobs that are more finance oriented,
Mhm.
or you can do CFA,
Or you can do all of the above.
or you can do all of the above. Yes, that's always an option.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, if time permits.
Yes. So that being said, if you do not have CFA, if you
Mhm.
still had all these three things, you
Mhm.
are good to. You're basically telling that I can handle finance.
Yeah. And I think the reasoning behind that, if I'm correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that companies, if you come from a different background, have no way of knowing whether you have that knowledge. Because in a job interview, it's very difficult to assess whether you have the complete knowledge. I mean, they can test you on certain specific areas, they can give you a case study and see how you think. But at the end of the day, they want to know whether you will be able to perform that job. And the best way to showcase that is have that certificate, or you have some past work experience which lets them know that you are actually capable of doing this. So is
That
that
is
right? Or
that is correct. That is correct. And if I may add to that, uh, so other thing about doing a CFA is that people when so if you're applying for a finance role, you might have
Mhm,
an interview, a technical interview, where
mhm,
they would ask you a couple of questions about. So
yeah.
if that question had especially jargons in them, like what is uh, let's say return on equity, how would you
Mhm,
define return on equity, what is the DuPont analysis for that matter.
mhm,
Of
mhm,
course, even without knowing the term, that this is how you do it. But it takes a lot of time for you to gather your thoughts and then explain to the interviewer that, okay, this is what I'll be doing and this is what I'll be doing.
mhm,
Maybe the thoughts that you put forward may not, he might not I would say, like, intercept that in a he might intercept that in a different way.
yep.
Your intended meaning is not clear to him. Maybe you took it in a different way.
Mhm,
That's when your terms like what is DuPont, as in what is written on equity, comes
mhm.
very handy for you. And
Correct.
sometimes they will put this jargons into, and if you would have watched a Big Shot, you would know this. There are a lot of jargons, people,
Yes.
and there are a lot of jargons, and it's embarrassing to say that, sorry, I didn't quite get that. I
Yeah.
can you
Mhm,
I could not understand what the term is. Maybe you can explain to me what that, and I can
yeah.
answer maybe that. That is the
Mhm.
last. That is another way to tackle that problem. But that is not a situation that you want to be in. People usually assume that you do not know the basics of finance.
Yep. Yeah, I think you make an important point that it's important not to just have the work experience or the CFA degree. It's also important to know the language of finance, the
That is true.
jargons, the important terms, and how is it that bankers or venture capitalists or the role you're applying to, what is the language they use, and make yourself familiar with those words so that in an interview you can showcase that this is not something new to you, but you can appear more confident when you use those vocabulary terms, and that in turn shows to the interviewer that you are the right candidate for the job.
That is true. If I might add a point here,
Yeah.
I after I was doing a finance, then after I was doing CFA. I mean, I was in transition of doing CFA, and I thought that I would watch this movie called Big Shot.
Mhm.
And this person was saying, like, I went long on a stock. I was like, what is long on a stock?
Yeah.
What is he talking about? And
Exactly.
these people could have said that, okay, I'm going to buy a stock. It doesn't hurt them to say that in a movie, but they say we're going on long on a stock. And that's what the real world is all about. And nobody
Yeah.
says, if you're working in finance, nobody's going to, I'm going to sell a stock and I'm going to buy a stock. They just say, I went long on some company. That's it. It's up to you to figure out what that is.
Yeah.
So you need to know jargons,
Yeah,
people.
on that note, do you have any other tips for candidates to learn the language of the trade apart from doing the CFA? Are there any tips you can give which will help the listeners learn the language?
Sure. Um, so the first thing, apart from CFA, of course, you can listen to lectures of Ashwath Damodaran, where he had discussed about
Mhm.
all these. It's the way he speaks, and all the jargon, the words of jargons have been detailed over there.
Okay.
Or if it, another thing is that, okay, so you can take a book like a finance related, any textbook for that matter,
Mhm.
and you can equip yourself by reading the textbook. Okay, this is what ROE means. They say just ROE. What is ROE? It's return on equity. So, and what is written on equity is again a big, it can be explained in many ways. So
Yeah.
these are the things you will, these are the two venues that I've used personally. And there are other venues as well. Like you can, if, let's say, if you do not want to do CFA,
Mhm.
but you just wanted to learn what is finance,
Yes.
you can take up various course providers like
Mhm.
Kaplan for that matter. Or
Yeah.
there is this other person that I know from India. His name is Ashwini Bajaj.
Okay.
I personally took his course when I was doing
Mhm.
a CFA level one, and he's an amazing teacher. And
Okay.
for people who do not know the language Hindi, then you might have a big time understanding, because some of the terms he would want to express in Hindi.
Mhm.
But that being said, 95% of whatever he teaches is covered in English. For those who are only English speakers, you can still go for Ashwini Bajaj. So he teaches you like everything, and everything is covered over there. So that's another way to learn.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for that, Ajay. So now that you had made the decision of going into finance, can you recommend some courses which are offered at Schulich, or subjects which you took, which actually helped you out and made you understand finance better?
Yep, sure. So if you're someone who's starting out in finance, the first thing that you have to do is do a lot of pre-reads, equip yourself with the knowledge, that is the basic understanding of the knowledge that's necessary. That is because the courses offered in Chulik are not beginner level courses. They are like I would say like intermediate level. So you should understand, actually have some idea, so that you can transition smoothly into understanding the topics that have been taught in those courses. So that's my first advice. Second advice is that the courses like corporate finance are really is really important. And two other courses, which I think two other courses that I found much more important. I mean, for someone who is looking towards doing equity research standpoint, or
Mhm.
just to understand what is finance, or to get a hang of what is finance, is
Mhm.
this course by Gregory Paul.
Okay.
It's called Corporate Financial Analysis.
Yeah.
The professor is an amazing professor. Is another model to me. He, uh, I mean, he dissects everything that is to do with a company's financial statements, and
Correct.
then of course, he provides us with all the knowledge that's necessary, and then he asks us to forecast what is going to be the cash flows and other stuffs, and to come up with a decision whether you're going to do a buy whole or a sell decision.
All
So
right.
so the to give a overview of what the course is all about, it's just that the first assignment is all about understanding what the financial statement is.
Mhm.
The second part of the assignment is all about using whatever you have understood so far. How are you going to project what the business is going to do in the future, and whether it's a
Okay.
lucrative opportunity to invest or not. So and it's a very demanding, very challenging course, I would say. And even his exams are very challenging, and an amazing professor to I mean, I would say I've been blessed to be in his class. That's the one word to put it. And my second course is if people ask me like what would you do, if what is the one thing that you want to do in finance,
Mhm.
there are like a lot of finances are huge, it's an umbrella term. What do you want to do in finance? I would say that for the rest of my life I would do derivatives.
Okay. So derivatives course.
Yeah, it is, of course, a derivative course is the second course. It was taught by this amazing professor called Vikram Iyer.
Mhm.
He's a CFA holder,
Mhm.
and I loved his course because he took a different approach to teaching. He explained lots of scenarios. He gave lots of practical examples,
Mhm.
and it was bang on to the point. So uh, it was an amazing experience. I would say it's like it's a surreal experience to have been in this class.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you
That's
so
my
much for that.
personal opinion, though.
No, no, it's right. I think all the people I know who went into finance did take the CFA course by Professor Gregory Paul.
Yeah, that
Even if
that
they,
that is true.
even if
That is
some
true.
of them did not take the derivatives course, I think most of them did take the course taught by Gregory Paul, and all of them have really nice things to say. All right, Ajay. So after this, you made the decision to go work for a venture capital fund. And I would like to ask you to explain what exactly is it like working for a venture capital fund? What is it that venture capitalists do? Because a lot of folks have heard about it, but don't fully know what really happens. So could you please explain it to us?
Yeah, definitely. Think of venture capital funds as a bank,
Mhm.
but a bank is giving loan not to people but to businesses, small businesses.
Okay.
So that is so. How to elaborate more on that? let's say you have a business,
Okay.
and the first thing about business is an idea, and you have an
Yes.
idea
Hmm.
and of course you need money to start your business.
Correct.
And you can get money in different ways. You can have your own savings, for that matter. You can
Hmm.
get money from your friends and families to
Yes.
start a business.
Hmm.
So if say you get money from your friends and families, or you start your own with your own money, that is
Hmm.
what we use this jargon called bootstrapping.
Okay.
So now you have started your own business, it's going
Hmm.
really good,
Hmm.
and after a particular point you realize that you need to employ more people
Okay.
to expand your business, for that
Hmm.
matter, or to
Hmm.
run your business more efficiently, right? Or you wanted to create an online presence of your business, so you need money to hire someone to create an online version of your store, for that
Correct.
matter.
Hmm.
So you need money. In essence, you need more money, and
Yes.
you do not have that much.
Hmm.
You don't have the money right now to
Hmm.
fund more of your business. So what you do is
Okay.
that you reach out to people who are willing to invest in your business. And who are
Okay.
these people again? These people can be distant relatives who are like wealthier as
Hmm.
well. Or you can reach out to people, and these people, we call them by this jargon called venture capitals.
Okay.
Or we call also we have these other people as well. We call them as angel investors.
Hmm.
So think of angel investors as people who have uh, a lot of money,
Hmm.
to be very blunt, and then and these people can uh, write you a check of, let's say, $50,000
Okay.
or $100,000 in one go
Hmm.
to make a business running.
All right. So
They are
then,
invest. Yeah.
what's the difference then between a venture capital fund and a bank?
Definitely, yeah. Coming to that.
Hmm.
So before that, I'll explain like now what is a venture capital.
Sure.
So now you have reached out to an angel investor and he's willing to invest into your company. You've got the check and it's going really good. Now your business is expanding,
Hmm.
and now you need more money, and much more money, because you're going to expand your business much even further.
Correct.
So now an angel investor cannot provide you with that much amount of money. Let's say you're
Hmm.
looking at somewhere around $500,000 to $1 million, for
Hmm.
that matter.
Hmm.
So it's highly difficult for an angel investor to put all that money into one basket, that is your business.
Correct. Correct.
So that's where a venture capitalist comes in.
Hmm.
So in what does a venture capital do is that, let's take for example, people who are watching this, like there is something called mutual fund you must be aware of. So
Yes.
mutual fund is nothing but people who have little chunks of money come
Hmm.
together, pull in their money and buy investments.
Okay.
Similarly,
Hmm. Yeah.
people who have, let's say, $50,000 with them,
Hmm.
come
Hmm.
together, put their money, make it as $1 million, and then invest into the business.
Okay.
So that is what we can take it. I mean, that's another way to think about venture capital as well, to
Hmm.
give a short description about them. And this money they pull in, they invest in not just one business, they invest across various businesses. So
All right.
now coming to the question of what is the difference between a venture capital and a bank.
Exactly. Yep.
So um, for a bank, if you're, let's say you're going to take a loan on top of an asset, let's say it's a
Mhm.
house. So in a bank, usually there is something called collateral that is involved, and that
Okay.
collateral is nothing but your it's a physical asset, for
Hmm.
that matter.
Hmm.
If you're going for a personal loan, then the collateral is that your job, your credit score.
Hmm.
If you're unemployed or you have a poor credit score, there are low chances that you're going to get a personal,
Correct.
because what a bank assumes is that you're going to do really well in your job, you're going
Hmm.
to get salaries, and
Hmm.
then for the salary you're going to pay the loan. Now,
Yes.
what is the collateral with
Hmm.
respect to a venture capital fund? The collateral is the idea,
Okay.
and that's and it is, that's why this the realm of venture capital is as difficult as anything, because in a bank, if you have an asset, you can always do something called what is the value of that asset.
Yes.
But how do you value an idea? It's very
Correct.
difficult.
Hmm.
That's why you need special expertise to differentiate which idea is good, which is bullshit.
Yep.
And so this is an interesting stat. So if a venture capital fund invests
Hmm.
in 10 businesses,
Hmm.
6 businesses are definitely going to fail.
Oh. All right.
And two businesses are called what we call something called zombie businesses or zombie companies. Why do we call
Mhm.
that as zombie is neither dead nor living, right? So
Correct.
similarly, these two businesses, you do not know whether it's going to become the next big thing
Mhm.
or it's going to drain down the toilet,
All right.
but
Mhm.
it's hanging in there
Okay.
and sucking in the money.
Mhm.
Uh, so that is why we call it as a zombie. It's neither dead
Mhm.
nor living.
Okay.
And the two businesses, the rest, so we are come to eight, right? So the next two businesses are the ones that are deemed to succeed.
Okay.
And the success of those two businesses compensates for the failure from the rest of the eight businesses.
Wow. So it's highly risky. And this is when you have that expertise of evaluating an idea. Even when you have that expertise, you are telling this stat after you gain that expertise. Even after that expertise, 80% of the businesses are not going to do so well. It's only 20% of the businesses which will do well and will do so well that they make up for the losses of the remaining 80%.
That is true. That is absolutely true. To give an analogy, it's like the banks bet on adults, venture
Correct.
capitalists bet on babies.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Because obviously the risk is very high and you do not have a collateral which you can sell in the market in order to recover your money which you had invested. So
That's true.
I can understand it's very risky. And what made you go work for a venture capital fund? Why did you not go for, like, say, a safer option of a bank or equity research, which you said earlier you were interested in? But instead of going into those avenues, you went into venture capital. Why?
Okay. Oh, that's an interesting story.
Mhm.
So like I said, by the time I was at the finishing stages of MBA. I also developed an liking towards business, to combine business and finance together. Of course, business and finance
Okay.
are finance helps to make business decisions, but
Yeah.
it's also to think much more than finance. That is to also look at businesses.
Mhm.
But my inherent goal was to apply for equity research roles,
Mhm.
and uh, ideally, the thing was that I know that I have to spend more time
Mhm.
when I completed my MBA towards equipping myself to the skill sets that are needed for a equity research position, like
All right.
doing a modeling course for that matter.
Financial
Because
modeling.
financial modeling course, because like I said to you, the only way to evaluate your skill set is to either do a internship, which I didn't do in
Mhm.
finance,
Mhm.
or to work to already have a financial experience, which I didn't have.
Correct.
So the third thing is you will have to showcase your financial experience to certifications.
Yes.
So I will have to do a certification.
Mhm.
So I thought that I'll take some time to do the certification, and after that I will have to brush up all my basics, and then I have
Mhm.
to start applying,
Mhm.
and then I will have to go through the interview process, and it's a long process ahead.
Okay.
And this opportunity of a venture capital came to me like through one of my friends. He was working. He was also doing an MBA along with me. He
Mhm.
did an internship in one of the venture capitalist funds to in
So
the
he
same
was
venture capital
so he
I
was your
studied.
classmate.
He was actually my classmate, yes,
Okay. Mhm.
and he referred me over there.
Okay. So
So
the position where the fund where he was working, he referred you in that fund.
exactly,
Okay.
he knows that I was looking for a job, and I told him that I'm open to anything that is finance.
Correct.
Uh, Equity research might have been my goal, but it's more like a medium to long term goal.
Mhm.
But anything that is with respect to finance to gain that validity, I
Mhm.
was, I mean, I would buy into that. I would buy into that opportunity
Okay.
because I need something to validate that I know something in finance or to
Ah.
showcase my financial knowledge.
Okay.
So I took venture capital for one reason because even in venture capital I was assigned the task of a financial business analyst.
Mhm.
So what I do is that I actually do the due diligence of evaluating that idea.
Okay. Yeah. That. That's interesting. So,
Yeah,
because yeah, you make a very important point over here, which I'd like to highlight, and which is that when we think about networking, usually what people think is reaching out to people over LinkedIn or Indeed or different platforms, going to networking events. But people often tend to ignore building relationships in our own class, which worked really well for you because it was one of your classmates who referred you into this position. So, like, just a point to keep in mind for all the listeners, sorry, it is not just about reaching out to strangers or going to networking events. It is also very important to build relationships with your classmates, your professors, people who you interact daily with. You never know when an opportunity can come from. So I think that's an important point. And yeah, I interrupted you. Please continue, Ajay.
yeah. That is very important to have a network, not just with outside world, but also with people that you interact with every single day.
Mhm,
And also that I, I would say this to everyone who has asked me that question. Like I was at the right place at the right time, I would say.
mhm,
Of course, I was at the starting point of networking, but still, this was like I got lucky. That's what I would say in landing a venture capital job. And it's as much as it's interesting, it was scary initially
yeah.
because you are looking at chaos at the face of it, and you
Mhm.
have to evaluate ideas. And it's also challenging and it's also adventurous, I would say.
Mhm,
uh, and that is the one reason that I know that it's going to be very hard,
mhm.
because you do not you have prepared at least for 1 year theoretically
Correct.
to take up ratio. You understand ratios to some
Mhm,
extent,
mhm.
balance sheets to some extent.
Okay.
You do not know venture capital
Mhm.
by a lot of extent, to a
Yeah.
lot of extent, and then you're going to exactly end up in the role. And it was scary.
And
And
how did you manage that with so much of uncertainty, and you had a knowledge gap over there? So how did you fill that knowledge gap? How did you eventually learn those things? How can you walk us through that, please?
definitely, I would love to. Uh, First and foremost, I would like to. I'm really grateful to the CEO, and which I think I should mention. His name is Jeffrey Portman,
Mhm,
and he is the CEO of Open People Network,
mhm.
and he runs the fund called the Supporters Fund, and
Okay.
I worked for Supporters Fund.
Okay.
and uh, and I also worked with another person in the same fund called Laura Lirette.
Mhm,
She is the general manager of the fund.
mhm.
Amazing people.
Yep.
They were patient enough with me.
Mhm.
They know my background, and
Uh-huh.
they gave me enough time. I would say like 2 to 3 months
That's
for me
wonderful.
to for me to understand what is venture capital. That is the first thing. The second thing is that, uh, like I said, I like doing like difficult steps. I like to take the difficult steps, and I like to uh, I mean go through them and try to figure out what is the way out forward from. I mean, to find a solution to that.
Correct.
So like that, venture capital was one such thing. What
Mhm.
I would do is that I would make sure that I do whatever I can. Like it means that waking up early in the morning before even my boss wakes up.
Yep.
Understand, and every single day I made it as
Mhm,
an habit,
mhm,
so that I'm giving certainty to myself that okay, I'm going to wake up today and I'm going to look at whatever is there, and
mhm.
I'm going to try to figure out what is happening. In similar way I did with respect to Ashwat Damodaran.
Yeah.
First day I came in, I didn't know what to do, but I thought about Ashwat Dama. Oh, you just came in like when you watched the video.
Mhm.
Similar is the situation now. Come the next day, and I started doing that, and not just on weekdays but also on the weekends,
Wow. So no
because
holidays.
there is no point of an holiday for me, because when you have Saturdays and you know that Monday is not far enough,
Mhm.
and you are scared to death on Saturday,
Yeah.
what challenge is going to turn up on Monday?
Mhm.
Rather to equip myself with something, or to gain more information, more knowledge than I had today,
Yeah.
rather than to have that anxiety, or you call that what, Sunday blues, because you
Monday
do not.
blues.
Monday blues, sorry.
Yeah.
I had Monday blues on Friday evening itself. So the best remedy is to work on Saturday and Sunday so that you do not break that cycle of, oh, I'm going to take a leave and I'm going to work. No, it's work all day long, and it paid off huge by a
Mhm.
huge amount.
Mhm.
So yeah, I would say that is the one thing that helped me like navigate through the chaos. Keep on finding order every single time of the day as
Mhm.
much as possible until you're comfortable that okay, this is possible.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think yeah, that's
yeah,
that's fantastic work ethic and a lot of perseverance. But
thank you.
yeah, I think someone from a non-finance background, would you say like they'll have to put up that much of work? Otherwise, it's going to be very tough. Like, would you agree with that?
That is definitely true. If someone is taking, I mean, if someone is from non-finance background, taking
Mhm.
finance as the background,
Mhm.
the first rule about finance is bring certainty to chaos. That's what finance
Yeah.
people do.
Mhm.
And if the more the chaos, the situation, the more the certainty you need. And for that, you will have to work. And that's the only way forward.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I think that is the truth. A lot of people who want to pursue a career in finance should know. Behind all the flash and all the money and all the glamour is actually hours and hours of work and a lot of sweat before you can really achieve that. So
Definitely.
yeah, so
Definitely.
like what advice would you have for someone who is willing to or is thinking about working at a venture capital? Like what is the job interview? What should that candidate prepare? What is it that he or she can do before facing that job interview or working for a venture capital fund? You have any advice or tips for them?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, venture capital is a bit tricky because there is not so much structure to how the interview process might go.
Mhm.
But what I can say is that, that being said, the basic things that you should have in mind is you should understand the various jargons used in venture capital. Say, for example, there's something called burn rate, there's something called runway.
Mhm.
These are like certain terms that they would use, but it's boiling down to the just basic finance. How much is the expense that the fund is incurring? Just that.
Mhm. Mhm.
So you will, even though you know that financially, but you'll have to use the term burn rate. And the last thing that you want is to use the term in a wrong connotation.
Yep.
So equip yourself with whatever the jargons are there with not just the jargons, but the working knowledge of what venture capital is all about.
Okay.
I have a working knowledge of what a venture capital's fund is all about,
Mhm.
and how do they conduct businesses. Not the deepest knowledge of how do they evaluate a business,
Mhm.
but understand, okay, these are the various valuation methods available. And
Okay.
the fund can take any valuation method that is based on the philosophy of the fund, but it can
Correct.
be anything. And they can come up with crazy new valuation methods as well.
Mhm.
That is up to them because how ideas are crazy. So you need crazy valuation methods to evaluate and crazy idea. So
Correct.
it's I mean, it's as chaotic as anything. Just that uh, first thing is that if you're doing an MBA, look out for courses that has venture capital in them.
Okay.
That is a really good way that you can put in your resume that I did this course
Mhm.
and I have some knowledge about venture capital.
Correct.
And second thing is that you would need to have a financial modeling background, as in you should know how to look at you should know how to read a balance sheet, income statement, and cash flows, and
Mhm.
infer from what is happening in a company.
Correct.
Be able to tell a better story by
Mhm.
looking at numbers.
Yeah. And again, like, let me ask you, what is the best way to go about doing that? Like, how can candidates learn this language of venture capitalists? How to go about that?
Sure. So okay, well, how I did it was in the following way. Uh, First thing is I did CFA,
Mhm.
and CFA covers a bit of venture capital jargons.
Okay.
And like I said, I had an amazing teacher, Ashwini Bajaj,
Mhm.
who would jot on various scenarios for us
Mhm.
to do a lot of calculations.
Yeah.
And by doing those calculations, we are understanding how a fund is actually working. I'll
Mhm.
give you an example. Venture capitalist fund earns through two ways. That is through something called management fees
Mhm.
and something called a carried interest. A
Yeah.
management fees is nothing but when a company has money and it invests the money,
Mhm.
how much money they invest, they charge 2% on top of that. That's called a management fees.
Okay.
And carried interest is nothing but if a company, if their company that are investing into
Mhm.
earns an abnormal amount of profit, they
Yeah.
take a cut in that is called a carried interest.
Yeah.
So okay, this makes sense. Okay, this makes sense when I say it in words, but how do I put it in numbers?
Yeah.
Because when you go to a venture capitalist fund, like you are employed in a venture capitalist fund, you will have to do those calculations.
Mhm. That's right.
Uh, yes, you can look for online YouTube channels where they actually teach you this in very different ways. Like you can
Mhm.
take a look at it, get an idea about how it is calculated because it's calculated different across different funds.
Yeah.
So you not just have just the theoretical knowledge, but you will
Mhm.
also have the working knowledge of calculating management fees or carried interest for that matter. So this is one way to gain expertise into what you're learning to do it practically through different scenarios for that matter.
Mhm.
Like I said, it's very tough to I mean it's the industry itself is crazy. Like it's very tough to it's there's no hard and fast rule that this is how you can get into a venture capital fund.
Correct.
But that you another way to look at it is that you can every single day you can take an industry that you're passionate about,
Uh-huh.
keep I mean keep the up to date knowledge about all those businesses in the industries that are like leaders. And is there any deal that is going to happen in VC space? You should know.
Okay. Yeah. That's insightful.
That's correct. So, and also that you will have certain jargons that are used in the newspaper or
Mhm.
in the article that you're reading that you can relate to what you already read.
Yeah.
So it strikes a bulb. Like next time when
Mhm.
I talk about management fees, what you will remember is an article that you read
Yeah.
in Wall Street Journal.
Mhm. Correct.
So it clicks really well. And you can take that knowledge and you can, during interviews, it will help you a lot when you can say that, for example, I read this and this is the how much they like the person who is interviewing you, or at least me, will be blown off by that amount of reference to those companies.
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. So, if I could just summarize what you said, so it does not, venture capital especially does not have one solution fits all. It's highly unstructured and it's very complex. But in order to get to know the language of the trade, it is important for at least people who come from a non-finance background to have a CFA and do some extra reading, like reading the Wall Street Journal, getting aware of the deals which are going to happen. So that actually tells the interviewer that you know something and you're not a complete novice in the field. So is that right?
That is absolutely right.
All right. And like any, what are the like the lessons you learned? You must have listened to a lot of investors. I'm sorry, not investors, a lot of entrepreneurs pitching ideas to you. And what are the criterias on which you do that evaluation? What are the parameters? Like, is there a checklist which an entrepreneur should fulfill for a fund to invest? What can you shed some light on that, please?
Yeah, sure. It's a mix of both when it comes to evaluating a business. There is a checklist, of course, and there is also the idea that is present. So that's the role of someone called the general partner. A general partner is someone who uh, the investors who have pulled in the money have given the money to this fund. Of course, the fund, and the fund is run by the general partner. The general partner takes the decisions of where to invest, uh, and it's his expertise. Like yes, looked at various businesses beforehand, and he knows exactly when he talks about a business. Okay, this business is going to be a home run for us, or this
Okay.
business is soon to tell, but it's turning out to be a lucrative opportunity.
Are there any
So
telling signs of when a
definitely,
general partner can tell that? So could you elaborate on
definitely,
that,
yes.
please?
If it's a home run, it is unlike any other idea out there. Let's say if a general partner is very well versed in technology front,
Okay.
he must be knowing every trend, at least most of the trend that's happening from the technology sector.
Mhm.
And suddenly, if there is this one company that comes up with an idea that says like, this is what we are going to do. We are going to completely revolutionize the idea. That is okay. That is still okay, but it's soon to tell. Because idea is not similar to implementation.
Correct. Mm.
100,000 things can go wrong in just coming up with an idea, and that's the beauty of venture capital, because venture capitalists do not invest into into a business that has just an idea.
Yeah.
And if you just have an idea, and if the idea is really good,
Mm-hmm.
we are not going to invest so much money into that,
Mm-hmm.
because it's so soon to tell.
So you're saying implementation is what entrepreneurs should focus on.
Implementation is something that gives validation to your idea.
And like any ideas on how can they focus on the implementation? How can they show the venture capitalists that their implementation is actually going to work? Can you elaborate on
Yeah,
that, please?
yeah, definitely. So let's say you have an idea, and then what comes next is that you need to have a plan
Okay.
of how you are going to achieve this idea.
Mm-hmm.
Starting with, you are going to develop a product for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to have a, I would say, a roadmap of
Mm-hmm.
how you are going to take this idea
Mm-hmm.
and to make it something that is intangible, and make it something that is tangible.
And the
Or-
job of the general partner or the venture capitalist, like people like you, is to like poke holes in that idea, like what could go wrong, this could go wrong, that could go wrong, and if they have a plan for that contingency.
Definitely, it's not. It's an actually, people think of it like venture capitalists or someone who give money and they poke holes around them,
Mm-hmm.
but that is actually not that. That is, yeah, you can say it in that way, but actually, what happens behind the scenes is that uh, before we sign a deal, we poke holes. But once we
Okay.
sign a deal,
Mm-hmm.
we just wrap our hands. I mean, we put our hands around their shoulder and held them like a friend. So, like, we support them to achieve their goal. And even for that matter, even when we are investing into a business,
Mm-hmm.
uh, if a founder is also a serial entrepreneur for that
Mm-hmm.
matter,
Mm-hmm.
and this is it, let's say it's his fifth business,
Yeah.
and you actually know what he's capable of earlier, and you know his working pattern for that matter.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
So based on that trust, also you would lend him money. Not, I mean, it's not like I'm not going to take a look at the idea. I'm going to give it just based on trust, but it's also based on the idea, and also
Mm-hmm.
that there is someone who has actually done it many times. So benefit of the doubt, I'm going to give it to him. He's going to bring this business into a bigger one.
Mm-hmm.
There's a risk involved in that still, but it's an, it's less risk when compared to someone who is coming up with a business, and who we do not know anything about,
Yeah. So you're
who we
saying,
cannot validate.
so
Yeah.
you're saying in short, like it's not just the idea, but also the person behind the idea that also
Yes.
matters. And
It's
it's
mm,
the job of the general partner and the venture capitalist to think about the negative scenarios before they invest in a business. But once they are invested, they are partners and they also want the person to succeed, and
that's
they
right.
can do anything in their power to help them achieve their goals, because
That is
it is
right.
ultimately what will make them money as well.
Yes, it's always about the entrepreneur in venture capital. It's idea is great,
Mhm,
but it's always been it's always with respect to entrepreneur, because
mhm.
when an idea takes shapes,
Yep.
it takes shape across time, and
Yes.
it is the temperament of the entrepreneur that matters a lot to reach from point A to point B.
Yeah.
And because at point B is when you get your returns,
Yes. That's
and
true.
the only person who can take you from point A to point B is not the idea,
Mhm.
but the entrepreneur.
100. And if you have a history of going from point A to point B, like if you have some successful businesses implemented in the past, then all the better.
Exactly. So that person actually knows how to take you from point A to point B already.
Yeah.
And of course, you have pitfalls like COVID in between,
Obviously.
and that is the nature of business. So
Uh,
yeah.
okay,
And
right.
this, if I may, that is this. Actually, I have this one thing that I learned when I
Mhm,
was, of course, I've been learning this through most of my jobs, and also when I was working for venture capital as well.
mhm, mhm.
The idea is that face your problems voluntarily.
And
What I mean by that is
mhm,
to face your problems head on
mhm,
and not ignore them. To give an better example is that
yeah,
if you have a small pain in your leg and if you leave it just like that, it
mhm,
may develop into something much bigger and might incur a lot of medical bills in the future.
mhm,
So it's not just about health. It can be a credit card bill which you didn't pay, which
yeah,
grows
mhm,
grows and grows and grows. So if you leave your problems to, if you know that's a problem and if you neglect that, it's definitely going to grow, and
yeah,
it's
I
it's,
think.
it's going to get bigger. So it's rather to face that problem now,
Mhm,
head on, rather than to neglect it and face it when it's becoming bigger. And the reason for that is that, um, to give a in a what do we call that, neurophysiological sense, like
mhm,
your how does your body react when you respond to that situation.
yeah,
Our brain has two systems, which is one is called an exploratory system,
mhm,
which explores voluntarily of
yep,
what is the terrain out there, and there is this other system which comes into picture when you are having a stress response.
yep,
So the problem with the second system, that is like which kicks in when there's a stress response, is that it leads to suboptimal decision making.
okay. Mhm,
Uh, a good example is that, let's say there's a deadline on your project and you are neglecting the deadlines,
mhm, mhm.
and then finally morning you wake up and I'm going to do everything today, but you might end up stressing yourself a lot, and
Yes.
you might not uh, you might well be able to finish it off with and come out with flying colors, but high chances that you might also even fail or not meet the
And
expectations.
mhm,
That's because of the system that is kicking in. It doesn't make as much good decision making as possible. But if you face your problems head on, the first system, that is the system that explores, kicks in, and then it helps. And also, other thing about the system is that I think it kicks in your, I'm not sure about the chemical, but then it helps you to make decisions much better.
yeah, you like they say, no, a stitch in time saves nine. So
Exactly.
don't
Yeah.
allow the problems to fester, whether that problem be a knowledge gap when you are a
Yes.
student, or whether it's if you are an entrepreneur and you know something is not working in your organization. It might be very small, but it's better to fix that while it is in the nascent stage, instead of allowing it to fester and then grow into something very big, because then you will
Definitely.
be under a lot of stress and you will not make a better decision which you are capable of making when it is in the very baby stages. Yeah.
Definitely, yes. And this because I explained to you that when I was studying for Ashwadhama, then the first day when I couldn't understand anything,
Mhm.
that is a problem in a way. Because if you leave
Yes.
that to fester, it leads to like you cannot do this. That is
Mhm.
the mindset that I get. If
Yes.
I could leave that to grow, then it would have taken me away from finance for sure.
Mhm. Mhm.
But next day you go and do the same thing.
Mhm.
That's like facing your problem. Similarly,
Yeah.
that the same thing happened in venture capital as well. First day it was quite difficult, but then you do the same thing again and again. And that's the one thing that I realized, that I thought that I think I thought it'd be good to share with
Mhm.
people who are living out here.
No, no, that's insightful, especially for people who come from a non-finance background and want to work in a finance industry. Perseverance and repetition is very, very important. And yeah, I think that's a good note to end the podcast on. So thank you so much, Ajay, for sharing your insights. And we hope you'll come back again sometime.
Thank you, Raghav, for having me, and thank you everyone for listening to this podcast. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Thank you, Ajay. And that was the episode for today. If you liked that episode, please hit that like button, leave us a comment in the comment section down below, and subscribe to this channel. Until the next time, this is me, Raghavendra Harne, signing off. Take care.